So we'll first start with some introduction. So briefly tell about your JavaScript and React experience, and if you have done one or two recent project.
Yes, I graduated in July this year, and I do not have industrial experience as such, but yes, I have project experience. I have made various projects on React and its ecosystem, which contain e-commerce website, video library website, and a component library, etc. Yeah, that's about me.
And what was the most recent project you have done?
Most recent project is video library that I made with Redux Toolkit.
Okay, Redux Toolkit. Okay. Now I'll jump to some of the basic JavaScript things, and then we'll move towards React. So have you
Okay.
heard about closures in JavaScript?
Yes, I have heard about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And have you used it in your projects, or you just have idea about it?
Mm, no, I haven't used. Yeah, I have used closures. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So briefly, just tell me anything like what it is purpose, how it is defined.
Okay. So in JavaScript, a function is barely not a function.
Okay.
So a function is always bundled with its lexical scope. So whenever I'm returning a function, I'm not just barely returning a function. I'm also returning all the lexical environment, the variables, and all the state that is having in its lexical parent environment with it. So with closures, it avoid garbage collection.
It avoids garbage collection. Okay. Of what? Like of these variables. Of what?
Yeah, in JavaScript, we do not have garbage collection like we have in C++ and other languages.
Okay. So what will be the purpose? Only that garbage collection is stopped for these variable. Is it the purpose of closure?
No, what closure does is like if we want to have a variable separate from our global space, so we can have a closure of it. So our variable will be intact in that block only. It will not be having conflict with the global space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about JavaScript itself. It's said to be like a single threaded, and then we also talk about asynchronous function. So how like is it single threaded, and how this async features come in? Like, do you have any idea like how these async features work?
Yes, JavaScript is a single-threaded language. We call it single thread because it has only one call stack. So that only one call stack is executing the whole JavaScript code. What makes JavaScript asynchronous is of event loop it is having. So whenever we have like any asynchronous code like API calls or set timeout like that. So it all goes to the browser. So browser have this micro task queue and the macro task queue. So all these asynchronous tasks goes to these task queues and stays there until the call stack is empty. When the call stack is empty, event loop, which is continuously checking whether the call stack is empty or not, it takes when it sees that yes, call stack is empty, it takes the callback function from our call stack or from our micro task or macro task queue and put it to our call stack queue. So this is how the asynchronous things are maintained in JavaScript, even being it is a single thread language.
Okay. So these queues or whatever other mechanism which helps you in async part, are these part of JavaScript programming language, or will you call it something separate? Like, will you call it that programming language, or is it something different which takes care of this async part? Are you
Uh,
using some kind of different thing, like in browser, suppose, like set timeout, example of a asynchronous function? So what is this timeout? Like, is it a JavaScript programming thing, or is it something else?
The set timeout part is not the part of JavaScript engine. It is part of browser. So the set timeout and these APIs, these all are part of browser. So browser takes care of these. They're the web APIs.
Yeah, the web APIs. Then have you heard about like DOM?
Yes.
Okay. So let's jump to discussion about DOM, and you can tell me like what is DOM and how DOM is differently used in React, if you know.
Mm, yes. So DOM is document object model. So whenever whatever element we write, so so that element is represented as a node
Mhm.
in a form of tree like structure. This is what we call document object model DOM. So DOM has basically three parts. First is the queuing part, like getting the reference of that node. So we can do that in JavaScript. We do it by document.query selector. Then the second thing is updating the DOM. So we can then update the DOM after like getting the reference of that element in the DOM. And the third part is like deleting that node from our DOM. So in JavaScript, we do DOM manipulation by ourselves. But in React, we do not have to worry about DOM manipulation. React does it for ourselves. So this is what declarative is, and React focuses on declarative
Okay. So
paradigm.
yeah. So you said about declarative. What exactly? Can you reiterate what exactly part is declarative, and what can be the other approach without declarative? Just an example.
Yeah. So as I said that in React, we need to do document.query selector, but in JavaScript, we need to do document.query selector. But in React, we do not have to do document.query selector. That is done by React for ourselves. And this approach is known as declarative. So we says that, hey, React, do it, and React do it by itself. But in JavaScript, we have to tell like where is the node, so we tell that by doc query selector, and then like all those things. So JavaScript is focusing on imperative approach, while React is focusing on declarative approach.
Okay, fine. Now, in this DOM, all you discussed, and React handles it differently, you said, then people also say it, the terminology, they say it like virtual DOM. So, have you heard about this term, what it means, what special about virtual DOM?
Yes, yeah. So React have virtual DOM. So whenever we writing any element, so React makes a new copy of the real DOM and put it in the memory, and it always make a sync between the real DOM and the virtual DOM. And this the process of making a sync between the real DOM and the virtual DOM is reconciliation. And this reconciliation performs diffing algorithm. So diffing algorithm calculates the diff, what portion in the DOM tree has been updated, and then it update and the rendering happens. So this is what virtual DOM is, and like why we need virtual DOM. So if we directly manipulate real DOM like we are doing in JavaScript, it will be very heavy operation. So that's why React focuses on virtual DOM. So it makes the process much faster.
Okay, so it's a optimized way.
Yes.
Fine. So, have you used any other library in React? with React, like any other library?
Yes, I have used a Redux toolkit.
Redux toolkit. So what is this concept of Redux? Like why Redux is there? For what purpose it is there?
Yeah. So Redux avoids prop drilling. So for example, if there is a building and the building is having like so many floors and each floor is having separate water tank. So this is what in React is happening. Each component will have a state. But in Redux, what will happen? The whole building will have a big water tank at the top. So this is what Redux is in Redux. What is happening? So in React, if we need any state or any variable, like the child variable is needing that thing, so we have to pass it from the parent to very deeply nested to that child. So if only that deeply nested child is needing that state, so it should so all the levels should not be having that. So that will be a inefficiency. So with Redux, we avoid this prop drilling. So if only the deeply nested child is needing that state, we don't have to pass it throughout all these levels. We are just like dispatch from our store and can use it. So this is how Redux is important for large applications and for avoiding the prop drilling.
Okay. So for state management, Redux is one solution. Any other solution you have heard of?
Um, any other solution for state management? I'm not
Without
sure.
Redux. Okay, okay.
Um, yeah,
Have you
like
heard?
there is also there's also like we can mimic the Redux part with use reducer and the context.
Yeah, I think that's the other part. Okay, so have you used hooks? I think you have used some hooks in functional components. So what is the most common hooks you have used?
Most common hook is use state.
Okay. In use state, generally you have a state changing function. You have two variables, like one is the variable where you store and other is the function which changes the state. Now, one of the common thing is uh, when you change the state, can you use state immediately after that? Like suppose there are two lines. In one line, you are writing whatever this set state function is. It's changing the state. In next JavaScript line, just after it, you are using the new value of that state. Can you do it? Or is there a problem?
No, like I can't use that state function immediately updating it because state function is asynchronous, like it update the state asynchronously.
Mhm.
So I can't use it immediately after updating it.
Okay. Have you seen any kind of solution to this problem? Like, suppose maybe you just want the value, the latest value immediately after that, or maybe somehow you want to do some calculation. So, what you will try to do? How you will try to solve it?
Hmm. Um, if I want to use the update immediately after it has been so I think I'm not sure, but I think we can use iffy immediately invoke function for that.
Okay. Ify, from Ify, I think you mean closures, maybe just to change. Okay. Say there is some direct approaches also. Um, so maybe I'll tell you later. But let's ask more about the use effect hook. Have you seen that hook?
Yes.
Okay. And what is its use like? Maybe like I can say that it calls, you put the API calls or such things in use effect, but why? Why don't I put it somewhere else?
Okay. So React follows the approach of like pure, like React want to be pure as much as it possible.
What
So
do you mean
and
by pure? Sorry to interrupt, but what do you mean by pure?
pure components are like the input and the output should always be the same, but it cannot be possible with the React because we of course, if we're making our application, we of course need a API, like calling the APIs and other stuff. So to solve this issue we have like hooks. So if we want to have some side effects like API call or anything particular as such, so we use hooks, and we can use effect. So now use effect, we have first parameters as callback function and other is optional parameter dependency array. So in a callback function we can do API call and other stuff. So this, so that's how we maintain this pure component thing by putting all our side effects in hooks.
Okay. So there are two follow-up questions. One is, you said pure is something which is like input and output. Same input has same output. So in case of component, what is the input? What can be the inputs?
Can you like again
Yeah. So
rephrase this question?
you said pure functions are functions which have, if you put the same input you will get the same output. So in our case, function we are calling is component. So functional component we are saying for this. Now I'm saying for a component, this component function, what is the input? What can be the inputs?
For function component, what can be the input? So like if we are making a function and that function is having two parameters, like it is taking two parameters a and b, and it returning a plus b, so it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
taking, yeah, so
Yeah,
this is
that is pure component, which you said correctly. Like that is general pure components definition. But I'm just saying that in React, this function we call it component function. So this function in React, what are its input? Like, can we input anything, or what are its inputs?
mm, I didn't understand like what we can
Like,
input.
do you have some specific name of these inputs in React? We can say like that.
Okay, so we have like you mean to ask like control and uncontrolled components, like
No. Any component. You said like React wants to be pure with the logic, and that is fine. And what is a pure function? That also you told. Like if a and b are parameters, then output should be always same. Like if a plus b is there, so input is a and b. That is fine. In that case, input is a and b can be anything. In normal JavaScript, it can be anything, and they will always be called parameters. There is no special name for them. But in case of React, that function is also called component. We call it component. And these inputs, do we have a name for it, or there can be different kind of inputs? That's the simple thing. I'm mostly asking about the terminology. What are the inputs possible inside a component?
mm, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of this question.
Yeah. The answer is props. So it's like
Okay,
props.
okay.
And also, but props was the thing which you can say, okay, I know, but sometimes they also include definition of state and context. So the purity should be in all of these, like these three. If they remain same, then the output remains same. So they will define inputs as
Mhm.
prop, state plus context. So all these they cover in inputs.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Like the parameter will be defined as props. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I think this was the one of the follow-up thing. Other thing which I wanted to ask was, in use effect, sometimes you may have heard of some cleanup function.
Mm.
Have you heard of that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
So
what is
useEffect, yeah, useEffect returns a cleanup function. So like if we are putting if we want, so cleanup function always runs before the callback function in our useEffect. So it will run and it will clear up, then our callback function of useEffect will run.
okay? And what you generally will put in this cleanup? Any example?
Hmm. So if I'm having like a event listener, so if I click on the button and I'm doing something, so I can put a cleanup function of remove event listener. So it will like remove the event listener, because adding event listener is a very um, it can cause inefficiency. So we should always remove the listeners that we add. So we can do it by the cleanup function.